It has the power to fuel bold ideas, inspire teams, and create unstoppable momentum. Yet, that same passion can also become a barrier, clouding judgment, resisting change, and keeping us tied to what worked yesterday instead of what's needed tomorrow. Welcome back, listeners, to the BizBlend podcast. And on today's episode, we are exploring this paradox, how passion can be both a superpower and a stumbling block in business. I'm your host, Sana, and joining me is Richard Levy, an MBA-qualified marketing leader who has built and scaled brands across the globe from GE and Santander to MoneyGram and OFX. He has seen passion ignite extraordinary growth, but also how unchecked enthusiasm can get in the way of progress. So, together, we are going to dig into how leaders can harness their passion without letting it hold them back. So, Richard, welcome to the show, and I'm really pumped up for this conversation.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here. So thank you for the invite.
Superb. Uh, I mean, of course, before we proceed to our questions and discussion, I must say it's very interesting because it's quite evident, especially in founders, entrepreneurs who are very much kind of obsessed with their ideas, with their
Mm,
business model. Sometimes, I mean that is definitely the fuel needed, the motivation needed, but sometimes it can also, act as a hindrance. Whether it's doing or accepting constructive feedback from customers, or maybe your frontline team members, or maybe your board members or investors. Sometimes, that kind of obsession kind of becomes like a
mm,
toxic one.
mm,
So I think this topic is really, really a crucial one. So with that, let's talk about your experience, Richard. You have worked across some of the biggest brands in the world. So
mm.
where do you see passion acting as a true driver of business growth?
I think that if you want to succeed in anything, then you need to have the passion for it. And the passion for it, when it's utilized best, if you use the analogy of an Olympic runner who does 100
Mhm.
meters in 9 seconds, let's say,
Okay.
what we see as the audience are the 9 seconds. What you don't see is the 5 a.m. starts, the practice, the going outside when it's cold, the overcoming injuries, the self doubt, the is this all worth it kind of questions that go through all of our minds. And the only way to overcome that is by having an extraordinary passion for what you do. In fact, if you read the book From Good to Great, which is about
Okay.
companies that at that time succeeded more than others. One of the things they said was there were sort of three elements to it. One is, um, are you good at it? Because if you're not the best you can be or the best that's needed, then it's not going to work. Secondly, is can you
Mhm.
monetize it? Is there an economic need for it? But first, thirdly, are you extremely passionate about it? And I think it's those three components that matter. And I think if you're not passionate and you don't believe that almost you were put on this earth to fulfill this mission, then it's going to be extremely difficult because you're running either your own business or you're an important person in someone else's business. And if you don't have that passion and the desire to get up on a Monday morning and start again and listen to the voices in your head that are saying, that this is going to be difficult and acknowledging that, but nevertheless going ahead with it, then it's going to be extremely challenging. So, in my opinion, anyone who succeeds, if you look at it, I don't know anyone who succeeded who hasn't had a passion, a very strong passion for what they do.
Yeah, that's very well put, Richard. Very well put, and definitely, I mean, there's no doubt. Um, it's like a an amalgamation of your head and heart in there. You are 100%, 500% completely invested, and that passion actually keeps you get going. It gives you that fuel to show up for yourself and for others. Um, now let's talk about the other side of the coin. Uh, how have you? I mean, if you can give some instances or case studies or any situations that you have seen where this passion can sometimes play a hindrance, having a tunnel vision.
Yeah, I think, look, I think most of it is pretty constructive. I mean, one of the elements that normally come out when people are passionate is they have a desire to continue learning, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't want it to appear that I feel that being sort of passionate is not overwhelmingly positive, because I think it is. However, we've all seen it when it can cloud people's judgment. So let me give a couple of examples of that. Number one, it's a bit like our children. You know, we all think our children are the most incredibly,
Precious.
yeah, sort of extraordinary human beings that have ever entered the planet, because they're our kids. Other people don't necessarily see our children the way we see it. And if we can take that analogy into business, is that, you know, our business ideas and what we're passionate about, where we believe the world should be going, may not, sadly, be the way that everybody else sees where it's going. And I think we need to be really careful that our passion doesn't, or our belief in something doesn't override the rational side of us. Because I think we've got two sides to the brain. You have an emotional side and a very rational side. And some people are really rational, not particularly emotional. Some people conversely really emotional and not very rational. And then you get another bunch who are in the
Mm.
middle. Um, and I think it's what we need to do is strive to be in the middle. So, you know, if I take my athletics example that I gave before, I may well say to you, I'm going to run the 100 meters, but I'm not in my 20s anymore. And so the idea that I can run it in 9 seconds, I might be really passionate about it and I might believe it. But unfortunately, the body as it gets older tends to age and slow down. And therefore, it's just not going to happen. And so, therefore, that passion doesn't help, because realistically and rationally, it's not going to happen. But it can be much more negative than that, I think, in business. I think, to the point you alluded to at the beginning, it's also about people not listening to feedback. Let's use that as the example. Now, I've always believed and always had around me what I call a sort of critical board, board as in a sort of board members. And, you know, that's a bunch of 3 or 4 friends, advisors who I really trust, who I know only have my interest at heart. And if they say to me, look, Richard, I don't think this is going to work, or have you thought about these challenges? Have you thought about it this way, etc., then the reality is I'm going to try and really listen to them, because I know they've got my interests are in the best place. A lot of people, it seems to me, when they're really passionate about something, they listen to it, but they almost listen waiting for their turn to speak. And you can always tell when someone does that, because you finish talking, they go, yes, but. And really, you know, it should be yes and rather than yes but. So I think passion can overflow when it overtakes rationality. And that can be a problem, because then effectively admitting that maybe this isn't the way to go down, despite your strong feelings on it, can create resentment, anger at people, frustration with yourself, you know, and we see this. I'll tell you where we see this a lot is when
Mhm.
people lose political elections, and they often start off by saying, like, "I take responsibility," but then they sort of blame the electorate. They blame the people who have voted, and you think,
Yeah.
but you can't blame the people that have voted, because that's your audience, and that they've made a decision based on what they've heard. And so, I think that idea that it has to be everyone else's fault can overwhelm when people are incredibly passionate about something and don't see it as everyone else does. And we see it all the time. We see it in sport, you know, where people are very tribal towards one team against another team and can't see anything their team does wrong or their players done wrong. And I think in business, that rational head, especially when you're starting on your own, you're a founder, you're an SME, you know, I mentor
Mhm.
a lot of business leaders, CMOs, and founders. And people come to me and say, would I do the mentoring for them? And a lot of that, Sana, is discussing how we rationalize things against how we just push ahead because that's what our passion is. And it's a good challenge.
Yeah, yeah, I think it absolutely makes sense. Especially I think I really loved that you created some really uh, logical, sensible parallels. We see in whether it's elections or sports. In movies as well. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes a producer will say that, oh my God, it's such an ambitious project. It's like, all huge names attached to it and this and that. But the audience reception is not as expected. And then it kind of, sometimes becomes a blame on the audience that, they couldn't understand
Yeah.
the project. They couldn't understand the movie, the vision in there. But that's not the case in there.
No. And that there's another example that is worth talking about, I think, in the world of business is that I spent, 20 odd years running marketing departments for, as you say, some of the sort of biggest companies in the world. And
Mhm.
one of the things I'd always encourage my marketing team to do is go and talk to other departments like finance and sales and operations and procurement or whatever departments you want to talk to and ask them what they think of the marketing department and just say, just be honest, right? This isn't a personal thing. Tell me. And very few marketing departments, in my experience, want to go out there and do that because they're slightly apprehensive about what might be said or how what kind of feedback they're going to get. The reality is translate that into a real business argument. Go and talk to your customers who have left you and just say, "Can I just have 15 minutes of your time? And can you just explain why you've left?" And then do that in the morning, have a lunch where you're going to feel pretty miserable, and then go and sort of spend the afternoon talking to customers who are your loyalists, who stay with you, who want to be with you, and understand what you're doing right. You will learn more from that exercise in one day than you will have been in an office for 30 days, for a month, because it's the customers talking. And on that, when they're telling you about the feedback that isn't quite so positive in the morning, that's when you've got to listen most because that's the stuff that is telling you what you're doing wrong and where you need to improve and how this can work. And if you're over one eyed about it and over passionate and over, oh, you just don't see it, you just don't understand it, your business will not work. I promise you. The judge and jury are the customers. So go and talk to them. And too few companies do that.
Actually, actually, and uh, I have actually not a lot of instances, not a lot of examples out there, but a few, from my tenure in the corporate life that, especially in the startup settings, when you have a very small sales team and the founder is really passionate about the product or the service. We are going out doing cold calls and reaching out to customers. Uh, and if a customer is ready to try it out, and somehow, that the customer gives a very kind of demotivating feedback that, okay, your product or your service doesn't have this feature or this benefit. I already have a similar product which is already giving me a lot of benefits, so why should I take it? It's not up to the mark, and that sometimes really has kind of demotivated not only the sales team, the founder as well, and somehow it kind of creates a misunderstanding that it could be a problem with the pitching. It's not about the product or the service.
100%. I agree. Yeah, no, I entirely agree. And I think listening to, it's like none of us have any idea as people how we come across. We think we do because we think we know ourselves. But the reality is the audience tells us best how we're coming across. In business, it's the consumers tell us best. Internally, it's how other departments feel we do. So we need to ask questions all the time, and we need to understand where we can improve, what's needed, what's not needed, etc., etc. So let me give you another example. When maybe this is a British thing because we're all desperately polite and we never want to offend anyone. But if you have a bad experience in a hotel or a restaurant here, you tend to sort of moan about it with the person you're with, and then you come to the end, say a hotel, and you check out, and they say, "How was your stay?" And you go, "Yeah, it's fine," because you haven't really got the time or the inclination to talk through it, and you don't, and you just, yeah, it's fine. And that it's the same at the end of a meal. However bad a meal is, everyone goes, "Yeah, it was just fine." If you're at the hotel, you're learning apps or restaurant, you're learning absolutely nothing from that. So why don't you ask a slightly more interesting question is, would you mind telling me one thing I can improve on? And that's a really, really interesting question that every business should ask. Just tell me the one thing I can do better. Because one, it forces the person who's receiving that question to give it some proper thought.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's always going to be helpful. And so I would encourage anyone starting off, and I say this a lot when I do a lot of, I do mentoring and I do business and marketing consultancy. And it's something that
Mhm.
comes up in both of those streams fairly permanently, which is ask that one question. If things have gone really well, just say, what could I have done better? If things have gone badly, what could I have done better? And learn from that. And that will become your North Star. And again, I rarely see businesses asking that question. And I think it's a crucial one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, that totally makes sense. I mean, it's definitely a passion inspires team and it energizes vision, but you know, sometimes there is a danger when it blinds us to other
Yeah.
opportunities or realities or course correction. Um, and Richard, some argue that passion is overrated. That discipline, systems, and execution, they matter far more. So, do you think that we have romanticized passion in business culture?
No, because I think I said at the beginning, the sort of three elements of a successful enterprise is, can you monetize it? Are you good at it? And do you have the passion for it? If you don't have the passion for it, then you're not going to give it everything you've got. You don't truly believe in it. We've all been there where we've worked in different businesses and we haven't really felt, truly passionate about something because we don't believe in it. Um, and so consequently, that's a really destructive um, emotion. So no, I don't think for 1 minute that it's overrated, but like a lot of these elements, it fits in with other. It's multifactorial, a
Mhm.
success. So one element of the success is definitely passion, but there's other elements as well that have to go into it. You need your processes, you need your discipline, you need your financial management, you need your pricing to be correct, you need your positioning to be correct. There's a lot of different aspects that go into a successful business. Passion is the foundation for it that you can build on top of. So you need it. Without it, you won't succeed, but it's not going to be enough on its own.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
just to make one other point and to go back to something, Sana, that you said about the movies and the films.
Ah.
We're born in a way that you watch all these movies and it's a, movies tend to follow a sort of similar story that there's a hero in it
Mhm.
who has bad stuff done to them, and they overcome that with um normally with some help, and then they succeed in the end.
Mhm.
If you look at sort of most movies, they sort of follow generally that theme. And what Hollywood has taught us, Hollywood and Bollywood has taught us, is that it's, the passion, the drive, the winner, it's enough. And unfortunately, I think that's given us a false sense of belief that actually you do need much more than that. And you need something to sort of balance it. So, we're always told it's the strongest, the fastest, the best, the most well read, etc. And I think it takes away the fact there's many other elements that go into being a success. So no, I don't think it's over romanticized. I think it's
Mhm.
oversimplified, as in it's sort of, you get this, then you'll win. But I still think it's a really fundamental part of any success.
Yeah, I think uh, the nuance itself here is kind of, uh, sometimes complicated to uh, express. So I think it really, really needs a lot of clarity to actually. understand it or accept it, I think it also definitely requires a lot of grounding.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that could be not that much simple. Maybe that's why, it's easier to romanticize passion. And I really like,
Definitely.
yeah, I
No,
really
sorry,
like.
you there.
Okay. And before we wrap up, Richard, of course, talking about your work, you have led teams across regions with different market dynamics, and I think it's a blessing because
Yeah.
you got to experience the diversity, the different, personas to explore, what are the demands, how the trends work, and everything. And that's really, really um, such a gift in there. So, how do you help people channel their passion into productive results rather than just noise?
Well, as I say, I have sort of two elements. I do sort of marketing and business consulting for founders and entrepreneurs and SMEs globally, where I sort of work with them, and they often provide a real passion, as you can imagine. And I'm the person sitting there saying, that's fine, but let's just sort of work out the sort of fundamentals, work out the processes, let's work out how we're going to go to market and make this a viable business. So that's number one. And then in my mentoring, which tends to be, as I say, same kind of people plus a few um, lots of entrepreneurs, founders, etc., and a few people at board level in companies, it tends to be about balance. And I use that word a lot in my world. This podcast is about also having a healthy mind, and sometimes that passion and that balance can lead to burnout, working too many hours, uh, forsaking family, forsaking fitness, personal health, etc. And I think that's really, really damaging. And I would sort of advocate against that for anybody. And I've been there and done it. So I speak from experience. So one thing I would say to people is, keep healthy, have family time, go to the gym, go for walks, read books, listen to podcasts, watch documentaries, whatever it is that allows you to turn off, eat properly, um, is really, really crucial. And, there's no point being incredibly passionate, incredibly successful, and in 5 years' time, your body's saying, I can't cope anymore, I've had enough. That's a really bad place to be. So one thing I keep saying to people is make sure you're looking after yourselves. Um, make sure you're um, doing the right stuff. You're remaining disciplined, not just at work, but also in your life overall. Because work is a really important part of life, but it is exactly that, a part of life. It's not the only bit.
Yeah, mm, thank you. I mean, I couldn't thank you enough, Richard, because you actually um, brought out the essence in a very holistic way. Um, Most often, whenever it comes to business, especially for founders and entrepreneurs, it is always kind of um, assumed, no, presumed that it's always about profits and numbers and uh, everything is fair. You have to sacrifice everything, but you have really, really brought out that essence that it's not only about the work, but about your own health, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual, your family, your loved ones. And first of all, it's you, because if you are not there for yourself and for your loved ones, then um, I mean, you know, it's actually a kind of sad place to be in. And many entrepreneurs, they definitely go through that phase. And the kind of surprising part is they feel that hesitation to express that say that loudly. And conversations like these, they definitely, aim to normalize
Mm.
these things, these expressions, the awareness in there. So thank you so much for emphasizing on this. And if our listeners, they would like to connect with you, Richard, what would be the easiest way?
Yeah, please do. I'm on LinkedIn. So it's Richard Levy, Levy one, the number one. Um, and then my email address is Richard Levy, Levy at Sophera, which is Sophera marketing.co.uk. That's Richard Levy at Sophera marketing.co.uk. And if they wish to connect, I do a monthly newsletter, which is, I think, really practical and helpful, which is real questions asked by business leaders, entrepreneurs, startup founders. They ask me in that month, and I try and pick the most relevant one and give an answer to that. So if anyone wants to sign up to that, including yourself, Sana, please email me and I will add you with happiness to my mailing list, because I get an enormous amount of positive feedback about it. So I think it's really helpful for a lot of people.
Super, super. And apologies, Richard, I mispronounced it as Levi, but it's
Don't worry, don't worry. That happens a lot. No problem.
And I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes for our listeners. And Richard, thank you. Thank you for sharing not just your expertise, but your honesty about the double-edged nature of passion. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for your brilliant insights.
No, I really enjoyed it, and thank you for the invite. It was a real privilege to talk to you today.
Super, super. And to all the listeners out there, passion isn't the enemy, but it isn't the whole answer either. Now, what we have uncovered today is that growth comes from balance, not the work life balance, the fire to believe in what you are building, and the clarity to know when that fire needs direction. And of course, it's the harmony. Your work is not your entire life, it's a part of your life. And with that, the real takeaway is this, that your passion is a superpower, but only if you learn how to wield it with wisdom. Until then, this is Sana, your host, signing off from BizBlend. Keep blending passion with perspective. Thank you.